what's going on, guys? Bflattened here with a brand new video here today. This is going to be Hustlin, Bustlin, Zane. It is all around the Hustler calm, and this is what the build ended up being. It accidentally ended up being a doll allegiance, but that's just because the class mod is very doll oriented. So let's get into the skills and then into the gear and then some of the crazy interactions that this build can do. So starting off with the purple tree, we're working with Deja Vu. Every time you score a crit or kill an enemy with a crit, you have a chance to add an ammo back to your magazine. This is kind of like Leave No Trace is on Flak, except it's on Zane now. Commitment and Headman's Hand together. This is your kill skills for crit damage and your kill skills for done damage. Now, Commitment stacks, and it can go up to crazy high damage. And the critical hit from the Headsman Hand also pairs up well with the Commitment kill skill. Fugitive, so that Zane can sprint and shoot at the same time. It's pretty nice if you're just running and gunning. Domino Effect, whenever you score a crit, you get increased fire rate and reload speed for a short time. If you score a crit with your action skill, you double the effect. I have a few points into sheer will because I actually had no idea where to put the last 2 points, so I just put them here. You gain action skill cooldown rate, scoring a crit increases the effect, just so you can spam your cannon up a little bit more. And then Eraser, this is going to be one of the main skills that we're going to be working with today. And this one is critical hits pierce to enemies with all weapons, dealing increased damage for every enemy pierced. Now, if you saw the opening clip, this is going to be one of the interactions that's going to happen. If you're looking for what happened on the one shot on Wotan, whenever he did the split, I will be doing it in this video, and I'm going to explain the process as thoroughly as I can. Armband Flint, whenever you aim down sights, you get bonus damage and automatically apply your status effect. This is great if you want to use like a freezing weapon to auto-freeze any enemy just by scoring a crit on them. It's great. I use Shoulder Shoulder with Cannon along with Proliferation so that you can get more charges, and Shoulder Shoulder makes it so that you do cryo damage. Little bit of green tree here. I do Adrenaline, I do Brain Freeze, and I do Distributed Denial. This is going to be for action skill cooldown rate. This is amount of the shields that you have. Since we're going to be using all-rounder on this build, you have your shields up constantly. So you have the ability to spam your cannon as much as possible, which is more commitment stacks, which is more damage. Brain Freeze, whenever you score a crit, you have a chance to slow down enemies till you freeze them. This is going to be working with our artifact. Distributed Denial, your barrier against shield effects. So if we don't have it equipped, we can actually mimic the Frozen Heart to do the types of Nova Radius if we don't have it equipped at all times. Charge Relay for movement speed and reload speed. Movement speed and reload speed is great because the movement speed works for some of our blue tree, and reload speed is great for the amount of times that we're going to be having our increased fire rate. Nothing in red, because red isn't isn't really good without Digiclone. I don't really find a point to red tree anymore. And blue tree, Violent Speed, Violent Momentum is very common. You get a kill skill. Whenever you get a kill, you get increased movement speed. You get done damage for the more movement speed that you have. Cool Hand for reload speed. C in red, so every time you spam up your cannon, you activate all your kill skills. This works really, really well with spamming stackable kill skills, especially commitment. Fire rate for violent violence, 2 points to playing dirty for extra projectiles. 3 good misfortune so that we can constantly keep our barrier active as much as possible. And Death Falls Close for extra kill skills, effects, and durations. That's the skills. Into the gear. So all of our gear is going to be using the U-Rat Anoint because we're going to be using a Deathless. We have a Hornet. We have Bloodstarved Beast. We have a Soul Render. And we have a Breath of the Dying. Now, the Hornet is a nice dull pistol that was buffed recently. It does splash damage. It hits hard. And it'll always roll in Corrosion. And it has the U-Rat Anoint. Bloodstarved Beast can roll in ×2, so you can have double the effects on it. This one is Shock with U-Rat. And it is also dull. I believe this is also still bugged at the moment to still mimic AR damage. So if that hasn't been fixed, someone let me know. But I'm pretty sure it still does AR damage at the moment. Soul Render, this thing got buffed recently too. It can come in different elements, and this one rolled in Corrosion with Radiation. Now the Soul Render is going to be shooting out purple homing skulls whenever you shoot it at an enemy. And those skulls deal bonus splash damage. So you can improve the damage even further. And the main weapon is the Breath of the Dying. This thing got buffed a while ago, and it always rolls in corrosion. This one rolls in URAD. Killing an enemy will splash out corrosion balls, and those corrosion balls on this build basically one-shots everything. It can hit damage cap very easily. It can be done on Scourge, it can be done on Wotan, pretty much any enemy you think of. Those corrosive balls will one-shot. They also go through shields. Frozen Heart, just so that we can freeze enemies. I'm only using a Soothing Hot Spring for the bonus fire damage. There's no other reason really for it. Hustler, now this thing is the main calm that I found and wanted to make this build around. This is basically the entire inspiration for it. Rolled in weapon damage, dull, crit, and assault rifle damage, which is going to be the Soul Render and the Breath of the Dying as our main weapons. It rolls in 4 Brain Freeze. Damage an enemy with a non-crit gets you 25% stacking crit, and a 5% chance for a non-crit to score a crit. This skill stacks 5 times, so that's 125% crit if you stack it up full. And then an Icebreaker Deathless with Area of Effect, Radiation, and Mag Size. You get some more capacity with it, and this is just all around a really good combo to pair with the Frozen Heart and URAD Annoyance.
Down to the lower levels.
Got to get into the build and what it does. Go down your barrier to start, spam up your cannon as often as you have it, and you essentially just go to town from there. This is the Breath of the Dying here. One shot. Now you gotta be careful with the corrosion balls that spawn, because the corrosive balls that spawn can go through your shield, through your barrier, and it will one-shot you as well. They hurt. They most often hit damage cap, and it's not a fun time to get Zane into Fight for Your Life. Zane in Fight for Your Life is bad news all around. Now this build has a really good potential to get out of your Fight for Your Life because of all the weapon damage and crit damage potential that it has, especially with the Hustler calm. But you lose all your kill skills whenever you go into Fight for Your Life, so here's an example here. You can still do pretty good damage even if you're swinging for crits. That's the only redeeming factor about this build. Otherwise, Zane has a very hard time getting out of Fight for Your Life just because you lose all your kill skills, you lose all your weapon damage, all your crit. You lose everything. Killing off everything here. I'm gonna try to see if I can get a ball interaction. Might be a little difficult to do unless you want to line up with this guy here. Let's see. Nope, they ended up dying to the Frozen Heart. Doesn't look like we'll get a Kraken. Corrosive ball with Kraken. That's okay. The yellow shield that is activated there, the corrosive balls can actually go through that yellow shield and they'll still hit Kraken. And 9 out of 10 times is going to be for damage cap. For those that don't know how to tell what damage cap is, just as a little brief introduction to damage cap. Damage cap basically happens whenever no numbers will appear beside the enemy's name, and more often than not you're going to be one-shotting said enemy, or enemies if it's going to be multiple. Not seeing any numbers appear beside the enemy means that you've hit damage cap. Damage cap is a number when you hit at least 1 billion damage. So much damage, it just doesn't record or register or has any sort of way of indicating the damage to appear as numbers. The easiest way to do and figure this out is to go to photo mode and have your damage numbers show. Upon testing this build, I've done it on Wotan and Scourge multiple times. I've never seen a number appear whenever I get the unique Breath of the Dying interaction to happen. The biggest ultimate test about this is I purposely let Scourge the Invincible and the Guardian takedown gain all of his HP bar back before meleeing the crystal, and then I did one of the corrosive balls interaction to go through him and hit him, and it did so much damage that it took his entire bar of HP away, and also it went into his next immune phase. Sadly, that corrosive ball there just missed. Otherwise, that Valkyrie would have gone into next week.
Those were advanced mechs, but we're after something bigger. Keep going.
Now that you've seen a little bit about the Breath of the Dying, it one-shots pretty much everything and does major damage to bosses in the way. Some of the other fun little things that you can play around with is the Hornet. Hornet is a burst pistol, corrosive. It does splash, so if you have splash passives, it'll also improve off of that. This thing does a lot of damage. Nasty little pistol. When you're swinging for crits with this thing, it does major damage because of the Hustler column and the Headsman hand. Bloodstar Beast also does the same thing. Now, once again, I'm pretty sure that this SMG here is still glitched and bugged to record for AR damage, which means that the AR damage passive we have on our class mod, Bloodstar Beast is actually going to benefit from. I'm not sure if this is fixed, so once again, if I have this information incorrect, I would definitely love to know about it. Now finally, the Soul Render, before we make our way to Wotan. The Soul Render just got buffed recently, and it does a lot of damage. The initial bullets from it don't really do that much. However, the purple skulls is where it shines the most. Now those purple skulls will home in on enemies, and they do it at a very fast rate, unlike the boogeyman. And they do splash damage, and it hits super duper hard. Now you actually have to be shooting at an enemy in order for them to appear. They don't just randomly appear. But when they do, they hit hard. Lots of purple skulls coming out, they hit hard. And now we're just about at Wotan. Wotan is going to be where our unique interaction is. And once we do the unique Breath of the Dying interaction like you saw in the intro, I'll explain exactly what's going on further with that. Before I do explain it and do it, I was only able to guess what all the interactions were going on in that, so I took it to Twitter, and upon talking to a few folks, Jolts Dude, K6, and Lazy Data, they confirmed that all my suspicions on what was going on was correct. The only thing I missed was one thing in the Guardian Tree. One thing in the Guardian Tree actually hits for a lot of damage and makes up for a lot of the reason why this thing hits damage cap. But it's going to be a quick little Wotan, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty of the build and what causes this thing to do so much damage. Boring math, if you will. Now, it doesn't seem as if there's a lot of damage coming through here, and that's just because there simply isn't. There's no eraser that's coming through. We're not killing anything for hollow points. There's just not a lot that's going on. But then when we get to the split phase, that's when the shenanigans happens. Now, you see that little cage there on Wotan? There's a little brain cage on Wotan. The little shield that goes around his head. That's what we need for this interaction to work. So what we do is we shoot it and he instantly dies. We'll clear off the takedown, and then we can get into what just happened there. Now, this can be done on both normal takedown, true takedown. You can make it as hard as you want it. This thing will hit for damage cap at the very minimum, and probably do it about 3 times over at the very least. Very convinced it would. Okay, so this is what happens. So Wotan has a brain cage, as we just showed. That brain cage counts as its own individual enemy. It is its own unique enemy. It is a enemy that can proc kill skills. It's its own entity. It's its own thing. It's not a part of Wotan. So basically, just by shooting that thing, we automatically do a couple things. We proc Eraser, because we shoot through the cage as one enemy, and the brain behind Wotan's cage counts as a second enemy. So Eraser procs for 120% damage. This is not including the damage that's coming through with the Hustler column, if it has any stacks going through, up to 125%. This is also not including the Headman's Hand that's going to be swinging through 56% extra crit. We're swinging for about 200% crit on average with this. That's interaction number 1. Interaction number 2, The Breath of the Dying, whenever it kills an enemy, it spawns those corrosive balls. So since we're killing the brain cage as its own separate enemy, the corrosive balls will just basically appear all inside Wotan's brain and just poop out everywhere and go all over into his head. And all those corrosive balls are going to hit for pretty much damage cap for each individual one. So that hits for a lot of damage. And finally, one that I missed in the Guardian takedown tree was Hollow Point. Killing an enemy with a critical hit causes an explosion around them. Now, since the brain cage will automatically hit for a crit, and the brain itself will automatically hit for a crit, we're going to be doing an explosion centered around Wotan's crit point, along with everything else that we just mentioned. So that's going to be centered in on his brain, and that's going to hit for massive damage for Hollow Point as well. All this combined, you're probably hitting for damage cap at least 3 or 4 times over. This sort of interaction can only happen uniquely to Wotan. However, you can do similar things with other bosses, say Scourge the Invincible. You shoot an enemy, and you can proc the crit through that. You get the corrosive balls, you hit for a lot of damage. And any sort of boss can really get this kind of unique interaction too. But Wotan was the one that does all this damage altogether. And I was very, very shocked when I first saw it. I thought it was really cool and unique. So if you're looking for the build, as always, it's going to be in Discord. You can join up there, go to download builds, and it's all yours. That's going to do it for me, guys. My name is Bflattened. I'm signing on out of here. Take care, all. Laters.